Good evening, everyone. Today we will start with this gel electrophoresis. In our last class, we have been discussing about the capillary electrophoresis. In capillary electrophoresis, we used capillary as the separating medium, whereas in the gel electrophoresis, we need to use gels as the separating medium. Okay, and electrophoresis we have already discussed that it is a technique where we apply an electric current to separate charged particles. In biology, when we talk about the charged particles, we are basically interested in DNA, RNA, and proteins, and also their fragments. Okay, and these DNA, RNA, and proteins, they are in combination they are regarded as macromolecules. Okay, and as I said, they are being analyzed, or they are being separated based upon their charge and also based upon their size, because we need to apply the electric current uh, for the separation based on the charge. However, that separation is also dependent on the size. I mean to say, suppose if you have a smaller charged particle, smaller anion A minus, and a bigger anion A minus, then the movement which is being made by small anion will be a larger distance as compared to the larger anion particles. Okay, so based on this, we are able to separate the macromolecules over there. Usually, when we do any biological analysis, or we go for microbial culture or cell culture, and then we want to do the DNA and the RNA analysis of there. So basically, we try to find out if there is any protein expression which is being analyzed by the RNA fragments. So how many RNA fragments are there or not? And if you want to quantify the number of bacterial cells and all, or the mammalian cells, whatever you call, so whether we want to see those things, then in the biological samples we'll be having a mixed population of those DNAs and RNAs, and they will be fragmented. They will be of they might be of different sizes and shapes, these DNA and RNA fragments. Okay, so uh, first of all, it is used to separate this mixed population of DNA and RNA fragments by length, and then to estimate the size of the DNA and the RNA fragments, or to separate the proteins by charge. Okay, nucleic acids are separated by applying an electric field to move the negatively charged molecules through a matrix of agarose or other substances. Okay, so agarose, as the name suggests, we can have a gel of agarose, and in the other substances we can have page, polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis. So in that we use a polymer polyacrylamide. Okay, so these two gels, they are the common gels which are used in gel electrophoresis. As I said, the shorter molecules, they move faster and migrate farther than the longer ones, because shorter molecules migrate more easily through the pores of the gels. This phenomena, it is called sieving. Okay, so the phenomena where the smaller particles, they can move further as compared to the larger ones or the longer ones. This phenomena, it is regarded as the sieving property. Proteins are separated by the charge in agarose because the pores of the gels are too small to sieve the protein. Okay, that means in the case of proteins, when we use agarose, these agarose gels, they are not capable to sieve the proteins. Okay, and in this case, the what you call the migration or the separation of the proteins is mainly due to the charge molecules. Okay, so usually these agarose gels, they are used for these protein molecules. These nucleic acids. And the polyacrylamide gels, they are used for protein molecules. Please keep this in mind. Agarose, it is generally used for nucleic acids, and polyacrylamide, it is used mainly for the protein, the separation of the protein molecules. Why gels are used? Gels, they can suppress the thermal convection caused by the application of the electric field, and they can also act as the sieving medium. Okay, so since it prevents this thermal convection, it prevents the samples to be damaged due to the heating which is associated with the passing of the electric current through the gel matrices. Okay, gels can also simply serve to maintain the finished separation so that the post electrophoresis stain can be applied. So what does this mean? Once you have maintained the separation, the gel should have sufficient property to keep the molecules at its location for a sufficient period of time so that we can apply stains over the gel, and we can analyze the samples over there. Okay. DNA gel electrophoresis is usually performed for analytical purposes, and often it is carried out after we have performed the amplification of the DNA by polymerase chain reaction. Okay. Now, types of gel. As I said, typically there are two types of gels, agarose and polyacrylamide gels, which are commonly used for gel electrophoresis. Okay, so we will today be discussing mainly upon agarose and polyacrylamide gels. Another important thing I would like to mention is that when we talk about the blotting techniques, the primary step in the blotting technique is to run a gel. Okay, that means we need to perform gel electrophoresis. Okay, so if we are performing northern blotting, that is for RNA. Okay, then if it is southern blotting, it is for DNA. Okay, and these two are performed on SDS page. SDS page is a type of polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis, whereas the western blotting, it is conducted on proteins. Okay, and for western blotting we use agarose. Okay, So, as I said, polyacrylamide gels, they are usually used for proteins and they have very high resolving power for small fragments of DNA, okay, which is around 5 to 500 base pair, okay. Agarose gel, they have lower dissolving power for DNA but have a greater range of separation, okay, and are therefore used for DNA fragments usually having 50 to 20,000 base pair in size. But the resolution of over 6 MB is possible with pulse field gel electrophoresis, where this pulse field, it has been abbreviated as PFGE. So usually what happens is that in gel electrophoresis, we apply a constant voltage of 100 to 150 volt. In this case, in PFGE, we apply a pulsating voltage. So 100 volt and then 0 volt. Sorry. So for some time we give 100 volt or 150 volt, then we drop it down. Then again we give another duty cycle of 100 volt and then again we stop it. So this continues. So in this case, we can improve the resolution of the agarose gels, okay. So PFGE, it is being run with this agarose gels, okay. Usually the polyacrylamide gels, they are run in the vertical configuration, whereas the agarose gels are typically run horizontally in the submarine mode, okay. Polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis, as I said, it is regarded as PAGE, is used for separating protein which ranges in the size of 5 to 2000 kilodalton. And why it is used? Because the PAGE, it gives us an uniform pore size, okay, as compared to the agarose gels. However, the agarose gels, the pore size is greater over there. Agarose gels has high pore size and hence they can be used for the separation of the DNA and the RNA molecules or the nucleic acids, you can say. Whereas polyacrylamide gels, they have larger pores and hence they are suited for the proteins, okay. Sorry, smaller pores. Polyacrylamide gels, they have smaller pores and hence they are suited for proteins, okay. So another important thing is that there is a slight difference in the casting methodology. Okay, so there is a difference in the casting methodology. So what is the difference? Agarose gel, they can thermally set. So what happens? You have a beaker. In the beaker, you have a buffer. Okay. You put a buffer and then to this you add agar and then you heat it up at around 70 to 80 degree centigrade. And during this process, these agars get dissolved within this buffer and then when you cool it down to room temperature, this will form gel. Okay. So again, if you heat this gel, it will be becoming liquefied. Whereas polyacrylamide gels, they are formed by free radical polymerization. Okay. And polyacrylamide monomer is used for the purpose. Now gel conditions can be of two types. Denaturing. So denaturing means the as I said over here, the polyacrylamide gels, they are used for proteins. That means the proteins are denatured. As we all know that proteins, they have secondary and tertiary structure. Hence, denaturing means converting the tertiary or the secondary structure to primary structure using various chemicals. And for this process, we use a surfactant, which is also regarded as detergent, and the name of that one is sodium dodecyl sulfate. Okay, sodium dodecyl sulfate. In short, it is regarded as SDS. Similarly, like proteins, the nucleic acids can also be denatured, and in this case, the denaturing agent is urea. Okay. However, when we are talking about this SDS, we have SDS page. That means this detergent, it is added to the gel of polyacrylamide. Okay, and this SDS, it is coating the protein surface with negative charges and keep it in a primary structure position. Okay, and under this condition, when the nucleic acid or the proteins, they are denatured, under this condition, the separation is based on size. So we get also due to this negative charges, you can have the you can what you call promote the separation. Okay, so you can reduce the separation time. So, but mainly the separation is mainly due to the size, and using these denaturing agents, we can have an information about the actual molecular weight of the samples, of the analytes within the samples. Okay. Now, when we are performing SDS page, we know in the secondary and the tertiary structures of the proteins, we may have different bonds like hydrogen bonds. We can have bonds like hydrophobic bonds. Now these bonds, they can be disrupted by SDS, but there is another chemical bond which is called disulfide bond, SS bond, and that SS bond needs also needs to be what you call disturbed. Okay, now for disturbing or breaking this disulfide bond, this beta mercaptoethanol or dithiothiotretol, in short it is regarded as DTT, it is used to break this disulfide bonds by the process of by providing an reducing condition to the proteins. Okay. For general analysis of the protein samples, reducing page is the most common form of the protein electrophoresis. Denaturing conditions are necessary for proper estimation of molecular weight of RNA and also the proteins. Okay. Usually, urea, DMSO and glyoxal are the most common used denaturing agents to disrupt the RNA structure. Okay. In native gel, what happens is that we do not use any denaturing method. Okay. So what we use is that whatever the gel you have produced, you use that thing. So native gel electrophoresis does not use a charged denaturing agent. Okay. So in this case, the analyte's natural structure, it is maintained. Okay. This allows the physical size of the folded or assembled complex to affect the mobility. That means you can have the tertiary or the secondary or the tertiary structure of the proteins or the DNAs or the RNAs, they can be analyzed. Okay. The molecules being separated therefore differ not only on the molecular mass and intrinsic charge, but also on the cross-sectional area. okay, but also on the cross-sectional area, and thus experience different electrophoretic forces dependent on the shape of the overall structure. Okay, it is important to note that here in native structure we have the effect of shape, molecular mass and charge. Okay, in the previous one, denaturing this thing gels, we have mainly the effect of molecular weight, that means the molecular mass and the charge, and this charge is also due to the inclusion of this SDS page. So mainly it is dependent on the molecular mass, or in other words the molecular weight. Okay, so for biological samples, detergents are only used to the extent that they are necessary to lyse the lipid membranes within the cell, so that the internal content of the cells, they can be released and then they can be analyzed. Okay. One downside, however, is the complexes may not separate cleanly or predictably, as it is difficult to predict how the molecule shape and size will affect its mobility. So this is one of the major problem with the native gel electrophoresis. Okay. So with this we will start into agarose gel electrophoresis. Okay. Just a minute. In agarose gel electrophoresis, as I said, you can make gel. However, in this case, you have the agarose gel percentage, which varies from 0.5 to 2%. Okay. Now, if you see each percentage of the agarose gel, they have a typical DNA size resolution. That means it is better if you have to say, if you have to separate 1 kilobase to 30 kilobase pair protein or DNAs, you use this 0.5% agarose gel. However, if you go for the this lower this thing 50 base pair to 2 kilo base pair, then we use higher amount of agarose gel, higher percentage of the agarose gel. Okay, so why this is so? Because when you have a lower concentration of the polymer in a gel, the pore sizes will be greater and it will allow the larger molecules to sieve through. Okay, when you are increasing the concentration of the polymer, then this pore size, they become smaller, and hence that gives you an opportunity to analyze the smaller samples. Okay. Now, when you are running the gel, there can be several lanes. Okay. Now, you have to keep in mind the first lane is also regarded as the ladder. Okay. Now, what is a ladder? Ladder is a lane where you have say nucleic acid or the DNA molecules of different base pairs. Okay, different base pairs, but what are the base pairs which are present? We already know. So these are known. Okay, so these are known stuffs. And then we have the lane 2 where we have the unknown sample. Okay, so in this case, this is just an example. If you see, when a 1% gel was used, if you see in the unknown sample, it is having a higher migration rate, as compared to the ladder, this thing. So it is having a smaller size, no doubt. However, when a 1% gel was used, then there was no resolution of the two components which were present within this gel component. Okay. However, when a higher concentration of gel has been used, if you see the distance of the ladder which has migrated, it has reduced. It is coming within a very close range. Are you getting my point? These are appearing in a very close range. If you see in the first case, in this case, it has already migrated through. Okay. However, in this case, it has hardly moved from the original applied position. Okay. However, if you look into the sample lane, it is now been able to resolve the sample into two analytes, say analyte 1 and analyte 2, okay, which was not possible over there in the gel in the first formulation where we have used 1% gel. Okay, so this is how, by playing with the gel concentration, we will be able to segregate the lower molecular weight substances using a higher molecular weight, lower molecular weight analytes from the lower molecular weight analytes if they are having very pretty close molecular weights in terms of molecular weights. Okay, what I mean to say is that if you have two analytes A and B which are present very closely, and both of them whose molecular weights are very close, okay, so the molecular weights of A and B, they are pretty close, and if we run the gel and if we use a higher percentage of gel, then we may be able to resolve these gels, these analytes using the gel electrophoresis. Now, this is a typical overview of a gel electrophoresis. So what happens over here is that you have a gel cassette. So this gel cassette, it can be either horizontal or vertical. If it is horizontal, usually we use page, and for vertical electrophoresis, we usually use agarose. So in both the cases, you will be having a gel cassette. So we need to put set the gel within this gel cassette. The gel cassette is initially clamped so that we do not have any leakage from there. So after we ensure that, then the gels are being poured and they are being solidified. In the case of agarose, we have a single gel, okay. Whereas in case of page electrophoresis, especially the SDS page electrophoresis, I would specifically talk about SDS page because SDS page is more common as compared to the page. So in native gel, I will be talking about the agarose, and in this denatured gel, I will be talking about the SDS page. So in SDS page, initially we have two types of gels. The first one is called resolving gel, okay, and the top one, it is called the stacking gel. And then we use a comb to create these sample wells. These are the wells, okay. So we use a comb to create the sample well, and then initially the resolving gel is casted, and then upon that the stacking gel is casted, and while the stacking gel is casted, the comb is being put over here in this fashion. So that helps you to create the well, and after the gelling is completed, then this comb is taken out. Usually the resolving gel, they have a concentration of this polyacrylamide of around 10% approximately, whereas in the stacking gel it is around 6%. Okay, so the dissolving gel, it is having a higher concentration, that means it is having a smaller pore, whereas stacking gels, it is having a larger pore. Okay, now once the gels are being formed, they are being put into the this electrophoresis chamber, and then they are put into the tank, and this whole setup is being poured into the tank. So then this anode buffer and the cathode buffer, they are being used, and to these gels, using a Hamilton series, the samples are being put. So in the first, as I said, on the first well, this DNA ladder, it is being put, and then subsequently you will be having DNA ladder samples, which is having analytes of different sizes, molecular weights, they are put, and then we are having different other samples over here. Okay, and then the samples are being put over there. Then this tank is being closed, and electric field of 80 to 150 volt, it is being applied, and you can see the separation has taken place. Okay, usually after the gel is complete, the gel is treated with ethidium bromide, ETBR, which intercalates with the nitrogenous basis of the DNA, and it shows fluorescence under the UV excitation. Okay, and under this condition, you can look it within a UV chamber. That UV chamber, it is regarded as gel dock system. Okay, so in this case, if you see, either TAE buffer or TBE buffer, it is used. I'm talking about normal gel electrophoresis. Okay, so here we are having basically this agarose gel. Okay, even it can be used for page. Okay, so the buffer which is used is TAE buffer, tris acetate EDTA. So we have tris base, then acetic acid and EDTA. So this is the preferred buffer, but there is another buffer, TBE buffer, which contains boric acid in place of acetic acid, which is present in the TBE buffer. It is there. The pH of both the systems are pH 8. Okay. Why TAE is preferred over TBE? This is because the borate, it reacts with the sugar molecules of the nucleic acids, and that is one of the reason. And the second is that it also reacts with the glycerol, which is being added into the sample, which is needed to keep the nucleic acids within the wells. Okay, and further, while we are doing this, while we are using this borate, the borate also reduces the activity of the loading dye. Okay, because borate, it is interacting with the glycerol, and hence the loading dye, it is not being able to interact properly with our samples. Why EDTA is used? EDTA is used to chelate magnesium ions, which is a cofactor for the enzyme DNase, and this DNase enzyme, it breaks down the DNA fragments. Okay, so we do not want these DNA fragments to DNase to what you call fragment the DNase when we are running the gel. So this is the function of the EDTA. So EDTA makes sure that the DNA is not fragmented further when we are running the gel. Okay. Now this is a comb. Okay. See how first this agarose gel is being put, or the comb is being put into the tray, and then this agarose gel are being put, and you get this kind of gel which is casted on a tray. So this is horizontal horizontal tray. Okay, so here you are having the wells, you can see. Then we apply, see, we are having electrode positions. Okay, so here we have at this position there is a tray like stuff where we add the anode buffer and the cathode buffers. Okay, so uh, this is positive, that means anode, and this is cathode. This is the negative one, the black one. Okay. Now the same thing, how a gel looks like, and then when we take out the gels and put it after ETBA uh, what you call fixation, we get this thing. Other types of staining methods are also available, and some of the examples are S5BR green, gel red, methylene blue, brilliant crescent blue, Nile blue sulfate, and crystal violet. Okay, so how the samples are prepared? You get the, after the DNA amplification, you, or the protein purification, you get the samples over here. Not purification, after the culturing you separate the proteins or the DNAs over here, then you add glycerol, then you can add these dyes, and then you can also add the buffer over here. Okay. So this is again another gel electrophoresis buffer, and this is how you can find out this ladder. It is also regarded as marker. So the ladder can have different base pairs of known thing. So you, looking at this, you can find out what are the molecular weight or size of your proteins or the DNA molecules which are present within the gel. Okay. So gel electrophoresis, what are the steps? The first one is DNA is extracted, isolation and amplification of the DNA is done. Okay, then DNA is added to the gel wells. Okay, electric current is applied, DNA bands are separated by size, DNA bands are then stained for visualization. So this is for DNA gel electrophoresis. If you want to go for protein gel electrophoresis, which is basically done using the page, then you can go for first the protein in a similar way. The protein is extracted, isolation of the protein is being done. Okay, and then the protein samples, they are being added to the gels. Then electric current is applied. Then the protein bands are separated by size and charge, and then the proteins are being stained. Okay. Then coming to the SDS page. So in the SDS page, this is the structure of the SDS. Okay. This is the chemical structure of the SDS, and suppose you are having this protein molecules. Now these protein molecules in presence of beta mercaptoethanol, and the SDS, what happens is that the proteins becomes a linear it becomes a linear chain polymer, and then onto that these SDS molecules, they go and attach themselves, and during this process, if you see, they are imparting a negative charge over the protein. Okay, the unfolding of protein can also be done using heat. Okay, by heating the samples, and that can also be used if you are not trying to use beta mercaptoethanol or other reducing agents. Okay, so there is other this reducing agents like DTT and DTE, which are also present over there. Okay. So this I have already told you. Yeah, one important thing you have to keep in mind is that 1.4 gram of SDS, it binds to a gram of protein, and corresponding to 1 SDS molecule per 2 amino acids within the proteins. Okay, the SDS acts as a surfactant. It masks the protein's intrinsic charge. Okay, so in SDS page, it is not based upon the intrinsic charge of the protein, but the separation it takes based on the linear size of the proteins. Okay. So SDS gel production, as I was telling you, there are in SDS gel page, just yeah. So in SDS gel page, we have a gel something like this. Initially, we are having two parts, as I said you. The lower part, it is the dissolving gel, and then we have the stacking gel. Okay. Then we have the samples. In page, what we use? We use proteins. Okay. So we have protein samples of different sizes, or different molecular weight and sizes, and then to this we add beta mercaptoethanol or any other reducing agent. Mercaptoethanol, beta ME, I am writing it down. We add SDS, okay, and we add glycerol. So this is a typical composition for sample preparation. If it would have been DNA for agarose gel, then it would have been proteins. It would have been glycerol. We would have this bromocresol green, bromocresol blue. Sorry. Then we can also have bromophenol blue also. Okay. So once we have this, we add these samples over here into the microcentrifuge, and then the samples are being heated at 95 degrees centigrade for 5 minutes. Okay. Once we do that, after this thing, this denaturation of this one is completed, and this resolving gel, as I said, it is having 10 to 12% of the gel, and it is having a pH of 8.8. Okay. Whereas stacking gel, it is having a pH of 6.8. Okay. And here, yeah, another important thing I forgot, there is also a buffer in the sample, and this buffer, it is basic buffer, and this buffer is basically it's a tris glycine buffer. Or you may not add the buffer here also. Okay. So you can use it for this for making running buffer. You may add it over here, or you may not add, it's upon you. But you have to make another running buffer, tris glycine buffer. Okay. And this 6.8 pH, it is being made with tris hydrochloride buffer. Okay. Now, once you put your sample over here, after the denaturation process, your sample is there. The first one is the ladder, and the second and the third are your different samples. Then what you do is that you put your sample over here. You put the running buffer. You fill up these wells using the running buffer. Okay. So what happens? Why this differential pH? And this tris glycine buffer, it is having a pH of 8.3. So what happens over here is that when you're putting this running buffer, tris glycine and all these things, so all these components, they will be trying to separate out. So in the gel, what happens, since we are having in this stacking gel, we are having hydrochloride. So these chloride ions, they are the they are having the they are electronegative in nature, and they are having the highest what you call highest electronegativity and small size. Okay, so when we apply the electric field, so what is the electric field? The proteins have been charged negative, so this is negative over here, and over here we are having the positive electrode. So this is anode, and sorry, this is cathode. This is cathode and this is anode. Here. So when you do this, so what happens? These chloride ions, they come over here initially, since they are having the lowest size. Then the protein molecules with SDS, they line up over here. Okay, and then you have this glycine molecules, they come on top. Now, why it is happening like this? These glycine molecules, it is a which is present in the tris glycine. It is basically an amino acid. Okay, and it is having a pi of around 5.8, approximately 5.8. So when it is coming towards this 6.8, it is towards the neutral pH. It is having the least charge. The glycine is having the least charge. Okay, as compared to the chloride and the protein molecules, and hence it is on the top. Okay, so herein we are stacking the different anions. Okay, so first is chlorine, then we have the protein SDS protein complex, and then on top we are having the glycine. Okay, these are stacked. Now thereafter, when we apply this voltage, when these three components, they come into the dissolving gel, chloride will come first, then this glycine, what it will happen? It is having a higher pH, so it is getting more electronegative as compared to the SDS protein complex. So just after chloride, we will be having these glycine bands, and then on the top we will be having the protein bands. Okay, we will be having the protein bands. Are you getting my point? So hence, in the stacking gel, we are bringing all the proteins together at this interface. We are able to we are calling this upper gel as the stacking gel. So it is stacking the all the anions in a sequential manner. I mean to say, in terms of the electronegativity. So the electronegativity of chloride is very high. Then after that we have the SDS protein complex, and then we have the glycine anions. Okay. So in this way we do the analysis. Then after this one we can take this and we can go for the analysis. Now, how the gels are being made? This wells, if you see the spacer, the thickness of the comb, it is approximately 0.75 mm to 1.5 mm. Okay, and these spacers, they are used for creating the well. Then how the gel is prepared? The acrylamide, which is the monomer, it is mixed as the gel former at appropriate concentrations and using appropriate buffer pH. Okay. Then methylene bisacrylamide, it is added, which is a cross-linker. Okay. And then you can have these buffer gels and all these things, and SDS is also added so that the protein does not change its conformation throughout the experiment. Once you have converted into the primary structure, it should not change its conformation while you are running the gel. So for that reason, we add the SDS within the gel also. Okay. Over here, a catalyst which is regarded as timid, it is used, and as I said, the reaction is being carried out using the radical initiator. So we use ammonium persulfate as the radical initiator and we perform the experiment. And during the creation of the gel, we have to take uh, ultimate care that within the gels there is no bubbles. Okay. Usually the polymerization, it lasts between a quarter of an hour to several hours. Okay. So this I have already told you, and one important thing is that when you go for this acrylamide page polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis, we have to prepare the gels one day in advance. Why this is so? Because in page we are going for the chemical reaction and we have to give sufficient time so that the total chemical reaction is complete. If you use it prior to this one day, there might be chances that some monomers may be present over there and they may interact with your experiment. Okay. Then over here I will be talking about, yeah, another thing. Sorry. I'll be talking about another experiment which is regarded as 2D gel electrophoresis. In this 2D gel electrophoresis, what happens is that in my last class, I have told you IPG strips are present. Now, what happens in the IPG strips? Suppose you have made a protein, you have got a mixture of proteins and you want to separate them. So suppose this IPG strip, it is having a pH in the range of 3 to 10. Okay. So we add the sample over here and then we apply the potential across it. Now during that process, what will happen? As I said, suppose if you have Pi over here, this will be the negative. So here we will be having the anode and here we will be having the cathode. Sorry, this is positive, sorry. This becomes lower, it is positive, and higher it is negative. So we'll be having a cathode, anode over there. And cathode over here. Okay. Now what will happen? Depending upon the Pi, which is basically the isoelectric pH, the protein will segregate. So some protein fragments, they may be having proteins at say pH 4, some may be having at say 5, okay, 4, 5 and so on. Okay. Now after the proteins have been segregated as per the isoelectric pH, then this page is being run. So what is the advantage? So in the first case, we have segregated the proteins over here, right? Now, instead of this stacking gel, we already have the samples which is ready and they are present or they have been segregated in terms of their isoelectric pH, and then over here in this polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis, instead of creating this well, this stacking gel and all this thing, we use the IPG strips. Okay, and then run the experiments over here. So what is the advantage? Suppose you are having two proteins of say 5 kDa. Okay, if you run the normal page electrophoresis, if you do the normal page, you will not be able to separate this thing, because in the normal page both of them they are having the same size and same molecular weight, and you will not be able to segregate them. However, it is to be kept in mind that if you are going for this isoelectric pH separation, during that process, you have to keep in mind that no two proteins, they have same isoelectric pH and same molecular weight. Okay, so since you have already segregated the sample in terms of pi, now you have segregated even the two similar molecular weight proteins. Now if you run the protein gel, suppose you are having this 3, 4, 5 to 10, whatever. So say at pi 4 you will be getting a band, and say pi 6 you are getting a band. So these two proteins initially they were having, if you run the gel, both of these they will be giving one band. Okay, in normal page they will be giving only one band. Okay, however, since you have segregated these proteins in terms of their isoelectric pH, now you will be able to segregate both of these proteins separately. Okay, because you have already segregated it in terms of the pi. Okay, so with this I complete this gel electrophoresis. Yeah, another gel staining, this Komatsu staining, it is being used. Other staining includes the silver staining. So I'm over here, I am talking about this protein staining. Okay, in the protein staining you have this Komatsu staining which is used. Other include the silver staining. It is having the highest sensitivity, but it is a bit costly, and hence Komatsu staining it is most commonly used. Then we have amido black 10B staining, fast green FCA staining. Then we can have fluorescent stains like epicocon stain, SOIP RO orange stain. Okay, so how the Komatsu staining is done? Komatsu staining, in Komatsu staining, gel is fixed with 50% ethanol, 10% glacial acetic acid solution for 1 hour. So fixation of the gel is done initially. Then the solution is changed for fresh one, and after 1 to 12 hours, the gel is changed to a staining solution which contains 50% methanol, 10% glacial acetic acid, and 0.1% Komatsu brilliant blue. Then thereafter we perform the destaining step, where we use a destaining solution of 40% methanol and 10% glacial acetic acid, and after that, after washing, we can directly take the pictures. Then this page, as I said, it can be used for various both page and the agarose. They can be used for these blotting techniques. Okay, so page it is used for protein, and agarose nucleic acids. Okay, fluorescent dyes, they have comparatively higher linearity between protein quantity and color intensity. So if you are using the fluorescent dyes, we can go for quantitative measurement. Okay, so This is how you can how a Kumasi stained gel it looks like. Okay. With this, I complete this gel electrophoresis. Do you have any question? Do you have any questions?
No, sir.